wonderful people on Ways and Means. See, I told you you would not have a chance to miss me at all. I am back already. I have two bills for you today, in addition to the bill that Delegate Attar also presented earlier. So I'm here right now to respectfully request a favorable report on House Bill 469. This bill fixes a loophole in our special education eligibility laws that affects a small number of students and denies them equal access to important services compared to their same-aged peers. Right? Students with significant disabilities are allowed to continue attending school and receiving supports until the school year in which they turn 21. The student, however, if they have a birthday after the enrollment eligibility date, but before the first day of school, I'm going to try to simplify this more, this very small group of students actually receives 15 years instead of the 16 years that their same age peers receive. The General Assembly tried to fix this problem and did a pretty good job by mandating that the date of eligibility for students to start school be standardized across the state, because every county was starting on different dates, which meant that we had a lot of problems with switching counties, schools, and a lot of special education issues as well. However, there are several groups of students who weren't captured in this fix, and they are only now coming to light. First, there's a very limited number of students who are now either 19 or 20 years old, and they will still lose a year of IEP services because they entered school before the bill went into effect. Okay, so these are just a few years of kids. Right. The second group are specifically our special education 11-month schools, which have their own eligibility dates, right, and their own start dates. Right? So they are not included in the mandated 2008 bill. And then finally, there are 6 counties in Maryland who still actually start their school year after Labor Day. That is after the eligibility date to start school. So if you are a student who has a birthday September 2nd, right, which is after the eligibility date to start school, and yet school starts September 6th, right, you lose a year of school compared to your friend in the desk next door who has a birthday on September 7th. Right, so this bill, it's difficult to explain, as you've heard, but this bill, House Bill 469, simply says that all students with significant disabilities are entitled to equal years of school. They can all attend for 16 years, even if their birthdays happen to fall within that 5 days between September 1st and September 6th. The counties that currently have an ongoing problem with this, and you might want to look at your start dates, Wacomico, Carroll, Harford, Cecil, Garrett, and Worcester. They all have start school days after Labor Day for great reasons, but if you're a student who has a birthday on September 2nd, then you're in big trouble there. You will lose a year. So we need to act now in order to make sure that these students, some of these that you're going to hear from today, actually can get their last year of school this year. So I want to speak a moment to the fiscal note, because it is higher than we expected. In your testimony from MSDE, they actually make a note as to why they considered that fiscal note inaccurate. Right? The fiscal note is assuming that all kids who are in certificate programs are going to fall within this 1 week or 2 week period that we're talking about. So what you need to do there, and we're actually sending you a copy of the information that we have from MSDE that verifies this, is divide that number by 52. You're going to come up with a very, very reasonable number by doing that. So by passing 469, I just want to point out that no one is adding or gifting an extra year to any of these students. We are simply refusing to continue to steal it from them. So I ask for your favorable support for 462. Thank you.
Who would you like to go next?
You want me to go first?
want to go first? She would like to go first, if that's okay.
Hi, I am Emma when I go to the Maryland School for the Blind. And at my school, we start our school year in August, but some schools start in July. And that means if you have your birthday in August, you won't get that next school year. And I don't get that next school year. And I would like to have one more school year. Some kids get only 15 years of school, and others get 16, and I only get 15, and I would like to get 16. I think we should make this a law to be nice to everyone, and everyone gets the same time to be in school, 15 years, and to be fair to everyone. Please pass this law. Pass this law.
Thank you. You did a great job. Thank you very much.
Okay, hang on just a sec. Just turn this a little bit. I'm here today to ask you to join my family and the special needs community in supporting House Bill 469. The current guidelines regarding age eligibility for special needs students in the state of Maryland are discriminatory and unfair. A special needs student will receive either 16 or 15 years of educational services depending upon a student's birth date and the first day of school. Emma attends the Maryland School for the Blind and is eligible for only 15 years of service. But if she went to other special education schools in Maryland, or if her birthday was just 2 weeks later, she would receive 16 years. It makes no sense. All special education students deserve 16 years. This glaring inequity among students with disabilities needs to be remedied now, not next year, not later, but now. I hope the special needs community doesn't get kicked to the curb again. The problem needs to be fixed. This bill will fix it. It is shocking and disheartening that this has been going on for so long in the state of Maryland. I can only imagine the outrage if some general education students were able to complete 12th grade while others had to stop at 11th. This inequity would be resolved immediately if that were the case. When I contemplate why this inequity has been ignored by Maryland legislators, I feel frustrated and unnoticed. Families with disabilities, disabled children have difficult lives. We are constantly navigating, advocating, and fighting so our children have what they need and deserve. We are often overwhelmed, worried, and exhausted. Most families don't have the time, support, or resources to question or push against the many injustices our children endure. This is one of those injustices. Emma is a very special young woman. She and several of her friends are affected by this inequity. Emma has already lost out on crucial transition time and meaningful educational experiences due to the pandemic. Please don't deny her the 2023 school year when others her age are able to receive services. Emma has the cognitive ability to understand she's not being treated fairly. She has said to me many times, "I hope this bill comes true." What will you tell her? I urge you to support this bill. It will end an injustice toward a vulnerable population and prove Maryland believes in educational equity for all students. Thank you for your time.
My name is Alexandra Ripley. I'm the mom of twin 17-year-old girls who were born on June 15th, 2005. They attend the Harbor School in Annapolis, which, if you're not familiar, is an 11-month program. Students graduate when they complete their high school credits or when they turn 21. The school year starts the first week of July. Again, my daughters were born on June 15th. There is a 2-week age gap where they are denied that extra year of special education services. So that's where that 15 years and compared to the 16 years inequity exists. Now, why is that a big deal for us? Personally, this week was a big one for me. Just this week, I had to sign a document that changed one of my daughters from diploma track to certificate. And I promise you, this was gutting. I've been an advocate for her, for both of my girls, for north of 15 years. She will not finish her high school credits in time for graduation. She would only need one more year to do so. The challenge is that special needs students have the capacity to grow, but they need to learn at their own pace. They need more time. They actually have more responsibilities in a typical school day than a typical child. They have IEP goals to work toward that may include everything from speech and language goals to functional math, and often this takes them out of their general ed classrooms. They have transition services that also take them out of the classroom but are crucial in setting them up for life beyond high school. Finally, they must work on their high school credits with what time is left in the day. An extra year would provide a better opportunity to achieve a high school diploma for some, while addressing valuable aspects for their curriculum outside of their credit classes. I am in support of the bill HB 469, and I ask that you are as well. Thank you for your time and attention.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair and members of the committee. My name is Andy Culp, and I'm here from the ARC, Maryland. The ARC is a statewide advocacy organization that's dedicated to the rights and quality of life of people with intellectual and developmental disabilities, and we also support their families. And we're here in support of House Bill 469. Some really critical points have been made. The most powerful points can be only made by parents. So I just wanted to just add a couple more. I understand that some people who are opposed to this bill are concerned of the lack of clarity of who would actually be eligible and when that eligibility would start. But I think the bill on page 2 really defines that this is, for students in primary and secondary education, and that's very well defined in statute. So there's no ambiguity there. All it's going to do is provide appropriate years of education, regardless of whether a student's birthday is in 1 week or another, affording all students in special ed services 16 years of instruction, just like students in regular ed get the same number of years of education. So it's truly addressing an inequity. It won't affect a very big number of students, but for the students it will affect, the impacts will be immeasurable as they have an additional year that they need to get ready for adult life. And that's ultimately going to put less impact on state dollars. If they're more ready to enter the workforce, be earning on their own and less reliant on state-funded services, it's going to cost us less in the end and make their quality of life a lot better. So we urge your favorable report. Thank you.
Thank you. And we have Julie Gaskins virtually.
Yes, I'm sorry, can you hear me?
We can hear you. We can't see you. There we go.
Okay, all right. Sorry about that. So I can only emphasize what the parents and the students basically said to support this bill. Allowing students, especially special needs students, the time needed to reach their goals, again, will overall enhance not just the student, but the community. And that's just an undisputed fact. This is an equity bill. I thank Delegate Guyton. I thank you all for listening, and I ask for a favorable report for this bill. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Committee, are there any questions? Delegate Plakovich-Carr.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Delegate Guyton, and your panel. I just wanted to get some clarity, I guess, maybe in terms of timing and the fiscal note. So I think you mentioned that there's 3 groups of students, and one of them is like a cohort that's coming through the school system now. So but maybe there are two other groups where it's an ongoing issue. Do I just have that baseline right?
Certainly. So the cohort, we heard from our friend, she's a part of that cohort, which is one reason this is an emergency bill. It is actually affecting the lives of these kids right now. That cohort are only students who are in their 19-year-olds or 20-year-olds who just did not fall into that early eligibility date before the law was changed in 2008. So there are very few of them left out there. Right, so this support for them will last 2 years, and then that cohort will no longer need any of these special supports. The other group, though, probably the larger group that we're talking about, is the group of students from those 6 counties in Maryland who will continue to have this issue because their eligibility start date is the 1st, but their school start date is the 6th. So if your birthday falls within that 5-day period, you just don't get the extra year of school. And that's why this bill is before you today. It's mostly because of the WENS, but it's also for that group. As we dug into the research, we realized it wasn't just affecting these people, it was going to affect those long term. But still, we're talking, and we mentioned the fiscal note, we're talking about such a small group of students. The fiscal note was written with the assumption that the 1% of students who were in these classes and going to continue to 21, that all of them would need this extra year. We are only talking about, going forward, students who have a 5-day birthday spread. It's a very, very limited. Justin from MSDE said he expects it to be about 10 a year, actually, statewide. There are some for the special education schools that they're mentioning that also fall within a little bit more than a 5-day window. I believe in this case it was 2 weeks, but I haven't heard of anyone who was longer than that. So I think that's the longest spread between eligibility and start date. So thank you for helping clarify. It is a complicated thing to understand without a bunch of calendars and presentations in front of you, but I'm sure that this group of very smart people can wrap your heads around it.
And if you could just, I think you mentioned you would share MSD's input, because we don't have that in our floor system, and I'll just note that it seems like in the fiscal note, right, from what you're saying,
Certainly.
that's another point if there's a cohort that's going out. Maybe the timeline doesn't
Sure.
make sense here. Thank you.
Absolutely. And so they have been very helpful with this bill, as has, if I can give a shout out to Alistair, helping us figure out, he looks scared now, helping us figure out the wording to make what we were trying to happen. So I really appreciate his time and energies as well.
Delegate Miller.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Well, to clarify, yes, I did have to, even with all my background with this, and special ed has been I had to read it multiple times to figure out and read the fiscal policy note. But 2 of the phrases, the later of, that really clarified it, and then the or statement. Really, those are really, they're tiny words, but they're very important as far as in this bill. So my question is, often when we pass things, we don't know the direct impact that it has on individuals. So this is incredibly important that will have a direct impact. So I appreciate you bringing it forward, and I appreciate you all being here. My question is, would that extra year allow the possibility for your daughter to change her track from the diploma bound or to the diploma bound? It absolutely, yes.
It would.
I mean, that is huge.
Yes, it is.
And you gave me chills when you spoke, both of you, by the way. Yes, that is critical. Thank you.
Thank you, Delegate Miller.
Any further questions from the committee? Okay, seeing none, thank you very much. That concludes the testimony on House Bill 469.